Bring in show music, please.
Today on Squawk Pod, Elon Musk is extremely online. Does the world's richest man's social media commentary and moves into politics take away from his other accomplishments? More with Musk biographer Walter Isaacson.
You can be really, really smart in some areas and really divisive and problematic in others.
Wall Street looking to AI to beat the market. What does it mean when everybody is using it? CNBC's Kate Rooney.
This is sort of becoming the norm to a point where you've got to get even better than AI at this point.
Plus, the clock ticks down to Election Day, X versus advertisers, and an announcement in Stockholm.
Not a real Nobel Prize, because it's not a real science.
I'm CNBC producer Zach Valisi. It's Monday, October 14th. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Thank you very much.
On Saturday, a man was arrested after he stopped at a checkpoint near a campaign rally for former President Trump. Authorities say he was attempting to enter the inside perimeter of security that was protecting the venue with an SUV that displayed an obviously fake license plate. Deputies found 2 unregistered firearms, a shotgun and a loaded handgun, and multiple boxes of ammunition. The county sheriff said he believes his deputies prevented an assassination attempt. Trump was not at the venue when the man was stopped, and the Secret Service says he was not in any danger. Federal law enforcement officials are investigating, but do not currently view this as what would be the third assassination attempt. Some news out indirectly, maybe, about the former president's plans for tariffs. This comes from longtime trade advisor Robert Lighthizer, apparently telling Wall Street money managers that former President Trump would move quickly on his sweeping tariff proposal if elected. This is a report from Piper Sandler, from research analysts there, who said former U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer has been briefing investor groups. Lighthizer reportedly told the investors that Trump could announce 60% tariffs on China and 10% across the board tariffs shortly after taking office. When asked about the report, though, Trump's campaign press secretary didn't deny that Lighthizer's been meeting with investors, but said, in his words, or her words, not sure, no policy should be deemed official unless it comes directly from President Trump. Lighthizer has been advising the campaign on economic issues and is a board member of Trump Media. And speaking of Trump Media, the company's shares continue to soar, up more than 60% in the month of October, and now about double from its lows.
Right now, let's get to the latest NBC News Poll. It shows a deadlocked race just 3 weeks before Election Day. Among support from registered voters, Harris and Trump are each at 48% in a head-to-head matchup, with 4% saying that they're undecided or wouldn't vote for either. That's a change from the September poll, which showed Harris leading Trump by 5 points, although that result was within the margin of error. Harris's biggest advantages were among black voters, younger voters ages 18 to 34, and white voters with college degrees. Trump leads among rural voters, white voters, and white voters without college degrees. The gender gap also stood out, Harris leading with women voters by a 14-point margin, with Trump leading with men by 16 points.
Elon Musk's social media company X has dropped Unilever now from its lawsuit against an advertising industry coalition and large marketers. In a court filing that took place on Friday, X dismissed its claims against the consumer products company, with each bearing their own fees and costs. Now, Unilever said that X had committed to ensuring the safety and performance of its brands on the platform, and that it plans for its brands to advertise on X. X said it would continue to pursue its claims against the other advertisers, alleging that they conspired to withhold billions of ad dollars to force the platform to maintain certain safety standards. Of course, this came after some of the famous go you know what yourself that we discussed. You're seeing actually an old shot of that from almost a year ago now when some of this all began. But interesting to see that Unilever switching sides, if you will. And the question, of course, is whether other advertisers will break as well.
It's just such a weird question to try and figure out. Is there a conspiracy to pull your ads? I mean, I understand the free speech argument completely and appreciate it. Advertising seems like a different story, whether you choose to advertise on that platform or not. I guess the heart of their lawsuit going after them is that they're conspiring, and I guess it's something of a cartel, I assume, is what they're alleging?
The claim, it's interesting. I mean, you can't force anybody to advertise on your website, on your newspaper, on your TV channel or whatever. But if every advertiser were to get together, discuss it,
collude,
and say, we're not going to advertise there specifically, that unto itself could be a claim. And so the question is there evidence
to damage business?
That a whole group of advertisers have come together to do that. And how have they done that? Have they done that through industry groups? Have they done that through using different advertising agencies that all came up with similar policies? Did those advertising agencies go to industry conferences where they discussed not advertising on X and trying to block? I mean, that's the real question. And whether in discovery you're going to see emails or texts or this or that where there's a decision where everybody comes together to decide that. I would imagine it's going to be hard to find that, but I would not be surprised if you found different advertisers or CMOs or other people at some point having discussions with each other about what's called brand safety. Do they think that this platform is safe compared to this platform? And are they going to advertise? And someone saying, well, I'm not going to advertise. And then the other person saying, well, then I'm not going to advertise. And then the question is, are they conspiring together or not?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more through discovery.
This hour, we've been seeing the Nobel Prizes trickle in last week. Now we've got three U.S.-based economists awarded the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences. The winners, Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, both from MIT, and James Robinson from the University of Chicago. The committee said their work help show why societies with poor rule of law and institutions that exploit the population do not generate prosperity, growth, or change for the better.
It's really interesting.
Is kind of, I guess, you figure that. The prize money, about 11 million kroners, or crowns, I don't know. But it's $1 million. It's going to be split evenly between the three. And the award, we call it a Nobel Prize for Economics, but it's really not one of the original Nobel Prizes. Officially, it's known as the Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. And I always point that out. Not a real Nobel Prize, but because it's not a real science. But it's not a real science. Can't be an actual Nobel Prize if it's not a real science. Kind of like the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know what that is at this point. That's almost like the Time magazine thing where they had a little mirror and you were the
person of the year.
Yeah, you were the person of the year.
It's pretty cool. If you got the Nobel Prize, I don't think
it's not a Nobel Prize. It's an economics prize in memory of Alfred Nobel. It happens to be called the Nobel Prize. It's a Nobel Prize.
Not
really. Okay.
If we gave you the prize, I hope we wouldn't.
I'm not worried about that happening. I think I took one economics course, and I think I'm better for that, for only having one.
Oh, for the course, I think.
No, I did not.
Tease will be next.
Coming up, rockets and reply guys. After a successful SpaceX landing, Elon Musk's divisive comments on social media could impact his other businesses. The man who wrote the book on Musk, Walter Isaacson.
Even his Tesla board of directors, even his brother, is like, calm down, get off the politics kick, because it's certainly hurting Tesla.
More Squawk Pod still to come. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC.
We're now down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks now in here.
Stand by, Joe. 3, 2, 1. His mic. Cue.
That was the first stage booster of SpaceX's Starship being caught by mechanical arms known as Chopsticks. That was yesterday at the company's launch pad in South Texas. It was another test on the way to what SpaceX hopes is reusable vehicles for getting to the moon as well as Mars. It capped a busy few days for Elon Musk, who also unveiled Tesla's Cybercab last week. Joining us now on all this, a man with really quite a storied background who we now call Musk biographer, Walter Isaacson. It's come to that. Walter, actually, you're a Perella Weinberg advisory partner and a professor at Tulane University. You've had biographies of some of the greatest men and women in history, and CNN and so many other things. But Elon Musk is a big enough person where his biographer can be Walter Isaacson in his own right, and that's okay. He's such a bigger than life character, and we need you to talk about him a lot.
Thank you, Joe. It was totally amazing to see those chopstick arms come on in and catch that booster. It's the largest rocket ever made. And not only did it land upright, which he's been able to do with his smaller rockets, but he didn't have landing legs. He used the chopstick arms. Nobody has been able to land a rocket upright and shoot it up again and reuse it. But Musk has done it more than 150 times with his Falcon 9. And now with this, he's able to do it with the biggest rocket ever made. I mean, China hasn't done it. Russia hasn't done it. NASA, Boeing, of course, hasn't been able to reuse rockets like that. And as you say, at the same time that he unveiled the Cybercab, running around, picking people up with no steering wheel and pedals, as well as Optimus the robot, which was serving drinks at the Cybercab unveiling. He also has been able to do that private spacewalk where he sent 4 people to the highest orbit we've done in about 40 or 50 years in this new spacesuit he built, and they were able to march. Plus, he's using his Dragon capsule to get the astronauts back from the space station that Boeing left stranded up there. So, and also, even AI, y'all were talking about AI earlier, he's taken XAI and brought it up to near where Google is from scratch.
Yep, and save the Second Amendment and everything else. I saw some, I don't know what's AI and what's not, but I saw one of the robots, and I think it was an actual video, Walter, but he was kicking a football, actually kicking a field goal, and I mean, it was shocking to me to see that the moves that it made after it kicked it to stay balanced looked almost identical to the same moves that a human would make. Somehow they've programmed in exactly how the weight gets distributed after you make that move to be able to stay on its feet. It was that was mind-boggling to me too. I
remember 2 or 3 years ago being there as Optimus was being developed in the Tesla back studios, and you had to look to see, okay, the risk is actually it's metal. It's not a real person, because he's made it a little smaller than a human, but humanoid. And you're right. It's able to do things like, I remember when he was trying to figure out the fingers, and he was saying, how many degrees of rotation, how many digits should you have on each of the fingers? Do we really need all 5 fingers? And those hands are more dexterous than my hands are now. Like, maybe not saying much.
I don't know what we should be more impressed with, what evolution did in a couple of billion years. I mean, we are comparing it to what we do without even thinking about it. But so I guess both are marvels of both time and the double helix and everything else, the way it works. Walter,
Absolutely.
Is Waymo and was it disappointing? Is it not or had the stock already run up? I mean, how do you read the robotaxi introduction? The stock
let's
went
compare
down.
it to Waymo, which is doing quite well. But Waymo depends on maps and being in a circumscribed area where each part of the road has already been plotted on a map. The thing about Tesla is that it can do it anywhere because it's done through the cameras. And that is pure artificial intelligence. It's 1 billion frames of video per day being analyzed so that a car knows how to do what a really good human driver will do. So I think that's much more important than being able to say, okay, we'll do it in this part of San Francisco or in this area that's been mapped off, because that doesn't make a car very useful. I think Cybercab and when eventually, I mean, Musk way over promises, especially with the timelines on self-driving, but in a few years, when you truly get unsupervised full self-driving, it transforms transportation on this planet.
I've seen comments across the political spectrum about Elon Musk, and there's some people that want him to be even louder and more, I guess, controversial. But there's other people that really he's driving some of them crazy. And regardless of his accomplishments, they can judge him and disparage him totally based on appearing at a Butler rally with the candidate that they don't like or not their preferred candidate. He doesn't give a rat's patootie, I don't think, about what people say. Does he, Walter?
No. In fact, I wish he would give a little bit more of a care about what other people say. You and I are probably in different camps on this. I think that it would be really good if he would put down his Twitter feed for a while and not be as incendiary and divisive as he is politically. I think it's hurting Tesla car sales. I think it's distracting, as you say, from the sort of astonishing accomplishments of the past 2 weeks. But when you ask about Musk, most people say, oh, yeah, he jumped up and down at the Butler rally. I think all of that, I mean, I think that's ridiculous, but he doesn't really care. He's even his Tesla board of directors, even his brother, is like, calm down, get off the politics kick, because it's certainly hurting Tesla. You look at the California Coastal Commission that has to decide or recommend whether or not he can launch rockets from Vandenberg Air Force Base, as they've done for 20 years. And as they're voting to maybe deny him the rights to do more rockets from there, one of the commissioners says, well, I've been reading his tweets, and it's bad politically. He's saying these horrible things. I think that's wrong to figure out whether you should shoot a rocket from Vandenberg based on the guy's tweets, but I don't think it helps him to do it. And even though I think you probably get excited by all this politics stuff, I find it really off-putting.
Yeah, I think you give me 100, take your pick. De Niro's, Jennifer Garner, give me one Elon Musk. You got a point. Look, Elon Musk. That's what if I was Trump, that's probably all I'd say. Elon Musk.
Well, I think one of the things you and I rest
my case. Smartest, richest guy in the world, unequivocally thinks this is an important election and thinks that it needs to go. That's all I'd say. I'd end all my campaign ads on that. And I'd probably say something, what do you think of that, Walter? And probably just tweak you at the same time if I were him.
I would say that you could be really, really smart in some areas and really divisive and problematic in others. I mean, the thing about writing about Elon, you got, in my opinion, a very dark side to him. You have this amazing genius to him, and it takes, I mean, Shakespeare tells us, we're molded out of faults. Even our heroes, like Henry V, kill the prisoners. But I find it be much nicer if Musk could focus on rockets and focus on cars, focus on AI.
That depends on where you're sitting, exactly as you say. We all have a dark side, I think. Anyway, thanks, Walter.
Some of us.
Good to see you, Joe.
Next on Squawk Pod, the rest of today's news that's got us squawking, like the bots trying to beat the street and what's on the menu after takeoff.
I think the cold meal is oftentimes better than the hot meal.
This is Squawk Pod. Here's Joe Kernan.
Stand Joe by. His mic. Cue.
Wall Street hedge funds are competing for an edge using AI, finding new ways to try to beat the markets. Kate Rooney joins us now with more on that story. My question was, is it just Gigo? It just seems like there's so many ways to try and beat the market. Is this maybe someday? But think if it got AI as smart and sentient as humans who still can't do very well beating the market. So
Still
I don't know.
Beat the market.
Right? You'd have to be better.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
Yeah, you got to make sure the data that goes in is really good and that you train these the right way, Joe. But portfolio managers are increasingly turning to AI. I've been talking to a bunch of hedge fund investors who are using it at this point Some are spending millions to build out these proprietary large language models and are at a point where some are trusting it to execute trades with almost no intervention. They argue there are certain things that AI can just do better that can't be matched by human traders. They're using it for algorithmic trading. It can measure sentiment of news articles, of earning transcripts in real time, and it can help analyze hundreds of pages of financial documents or spreadsheets. It helps with technical analysis as well, things like pattern recognition. And this technology's superpower, as one person told me, is avoiding the emotional pitfalls of investing. This person says it's helped avoid FOMO trades, so fear of missing out. Although this person did say, while it's really good at picking names, AI right now is actually not as good at getting out of certain investments. There are some potential broader market implications as well. So some have pointed to the quant quake back in 2007 when hedge funds started using the same models to pick trades and then crowded into the same positions and then blew each other out. And that caused some major volatility. There is a risk that AI is also becoming so common on Wall Street that that advantage really gets competed away. So all of this, of course, raises the bar for retail investors. These institutions, sometimes called the smart money, now pouring millions into AI. As one hedge fund manager told me, quote, "It is not a fair fight for retail, especially for some of the more active traders out there, guys."
Because we talk about all the different AI models, and they are similar, so I don't know why they'd come to a different conclusion. If they didn't, then they'd all be doing the same thing, and it'd be very similar to when everybody was piling into, using similar strategies in 2007, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so it all comes down to the way that you train these models, Joe. So somebody talked about using certain parameters, but say you want to train a model that invests exactly like Charlie Munger, for example. Some people are saying, hey, we've got sort of these proprietary ways we do things. We're training our models in the same way. So others have argued, hey, these are all going to look slightly different because there's so much training that goes into them that can kind of specialize and make them look different versus just all using the same exact sort of off-the-shelf model. So you're hearing hedge funds, investment banks also using these, and some are actually coming up with their own models. So there is a slight difference, but I think one of the risks is, yes, that they all come to the same conclusion, buy the same things, and then we end up with a lot more volatility. But I think it is a bit too soon to say.
How does AI decide when to change its mind? Because those great investors, they have like an intuitive gut that says, I'm going to rip up what I've always thought was true and change it based on
that's where instead of just trading by machines, which we've seen, this is not new, machine trading, and most of the trading we see now is machine trading, and it based on algorithms, and it already does that. So I don't know how unless it takes that next step to analyzing something or gut feeling. Unless it does that, it's just machine trading called AI.
That is sort of the direction. So generative AI and sort of the advent of ChatGPT was sort of this big moment where these have changed. They've become a lot more powerful, and hedge funds and banks have been using machine learning for years, and so have a lot of tech companies. They've said, machine learning or ML has been around for decades. Generative AI is allowing them to do different things, come up with different ideas, generate new investment ideas. And so they're saying that added power is helping a lot. But you're right, quantitative trading,
that switch.
Hedge funds have been doing this.
Yeah, it's just that switch where everything I've thought was true to this point is no longer true. How does generative AI really get to that point where they say, okay, my answer is wrong, my thought process is flawed, and here's why, and by the way, I'm going to rip up all of my investments as a result?
It depends on who you talk to. So some are saying absolutely, and they've had to avoid having any sort of intervention and saying, I need to trust AI because the emotional side of trading is taking over. And I'm saying, okay, I've either got FOMO or there's some sort of macro headwind that is not as big of a deal on the surface, but it's scary from a headline perspective. Folks have said it's helped them look a bit more objectively at certain trades. So there are certain trades that people have said, I would not have come up with that if not for AI. But again, it's becoming so commonplace that I think the bar is being raised to the point where I think the alpha, the edge is getting competed away in some cases, where this is sort of becoming the norm to a point where you've got to get even better than AI at this point. But it's raising the bar for everyone, including retail, where it's hard enough to beat the market, but plus all of this AI that they're using, I think is making it significantly harder.
Well, it's not quite a zero-sum game, but once AI knows how to figure out the market, I guess we'll all be able to get 40% a year, and everybody will be rich, and we'll all be billionaires because we'll all be using AI, and we'll all be beating the market. Then who's losing? Anyway, Kate.
We'll just all buy an index,
All right, thank you.
Meantime, Delta Airlines suspending its hot meal service on more than 200 flights out of its Detroit hub over the past few days. This is because of food safety issues. The company saying that operations from its facility were shut down and hot food would be managed by other kitchens. It also said during a recent inspection, Delta's catering partner was notified of food safety issues. No employee or customer illness were reported. The flights were stocked with additional snacks, and affected customers were given travel vouchers or frequent flyer miles as compensation. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the cold meal is oftentimes better than the hot meal.
It all depends.
Just saying.
We've all had issues with it.
All depends on how long it's been there. I think where it's from, the pre-handling.
You had issues, didn't you? Like earlier this year.
And you can't really, it could have been you don't even know what it is. It could have been the lettuce. There's some places where they got some lettuce issues and I don't know, that gross greasy salami. I think
not sure. Packaged chips and pretzels are good.
Yeah. You know what? If you have any inclination for fasting, if that's something that you think might work, you got a plane ride, fast. It's just bring something along, with you that you've kept your eye, you've seen where it's been. I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was.
That was earlier this year. It seems like it was a long time ago.
It does. It was. My life passed before my eyes. At least that's what I thought.
And that's the pod for today, this Monday. I'm producer Zach Valisi. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Get the best of our show right into your ears when you follow Squawk Pod, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll meet you back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.